Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. We are knee deep in recruiting. Knee deep in recruiting. Now, I've said it in the past, I don't really follow recruiting. I don't do the recruiting. I don't do any of that. However, I did see something that was interesting that I wanted to comment on, and it kind of coincided with something that I wanted to speak about on another video. So, I see some fans, right? Can't say everybody. Oh, this is with how many 3 stars are we gonna take? How many 3 stars are we gonna take? We're not gonna win national titles. The blue chip ratio, all of that stuff, right? All this stuff. And some of the people that I see saying this stuff are also some of the same ones that say, well, man, the majority of the 3 stars, more 3 stars get drafted than 5 stars, which is not accurate. It's not a true statement. And recruiting services don't know what they're talking about. Again, talking out of both sides of their mouth. And I just sit back and laugh. Like this time of the year, this is when I get my most laughs, because I get to see people say stuff this time of the year. And then when the season starts, they have a different tune. So I just get to laugh, right? But I was in the comment section. I was in some, I forgot what the particular topic was. And so I saw someone say something, and they said, if more people watch the film, they will realize that these guys are straight ballers. And I stopped for a second. I said, what film? What film are you talking about? I know you're not talking about a highlight tape. I know you're talking about a highlight tape. I know you're not talking about a highlight tape, because my understanding of what film is, from my experience in playing football, film is when you're looking at an opponent and you're figuring out what their strengths and their weaknesses are, so you can attack their weaknesses. Well, magnify their weaknesses and subdue their strengths. Analyze what they're good and bad at. A highlight tape doesn't do that. So what do you mean, watch the film? What am I looking at the film? Because 9 out of 10 fans do not know how to break film down. They don't know how to break it down. So if you can't break film down, how in the world are you going to look at a highlight tape and say, oh, this is what the player needs to work on, right? And I know some people parade around and pretend like, oh, yeah, they do need to work on that because they've heard someone else say it. But the reality of the situation is, you don't know what you're looking at. And so I literally commented and I said, what is someone looking at a highlight tape going to do? Listen, I don't watch highlight tapes. I've watched a handful. Let me take it back. I watched a handful of highlight tapes. And I'm going to tell you one thing that I've never saw in a highlight tape. I have never saw a play where the guy is showing a weakness. I've never seen that. I want to give an example. This was 2 years ago, going on 3 years ago. It was Coach Hayes, shout out to Coach Hayes. It was Wholesome, shout out to Wholesome. They were looking at Leonard Taylor's highlight tape, right? So again, 9 out of 10 of us will look at Leonard Taylor's highlight tape and say, man, this is a first-round draft pick. This is I saw some, prior to him getting here, and this is not a shot at Leonard Taylor, so please don't take it as that way. This guy's the best defensive tackle we've gotten since Marcus Fortson. And he may be better than Fortson. Like, he's that. He's a generational talent at defensive tackle. And so, as I'm sitting there watching the film, watching the tape, highlight tape, I'm like, man, yeah, this guy's good. Yeah, he's one of them. But kudos to Coach Hayes and Wholesome. Coach Holloway. I'm going to call him Coach Holloway now because he's a coach. Coach Holloway. It was 2 things that they pointed out in that whole highlight tape that nobody else spoke about. And the two things were, he gets lazy and comes in high. And if he does that in college, they will nullify him. And he's not as aggressive with his hands as he needs to be. Now you may say, Shy, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. We're going into this particular season, and the big discussion, we had one probably about a month or so ago, talking about Leonard Taylor and the limited amount of snaps that he has. And there's some guy, he's an absolute homer. I do not agree with none of the things that he say, because he just makes stuff up. He just makes stuff up. And anybody that's on the board, y'all know, but y'all probably like him because he's a homer, right? And they were talking about LT ain't playing no snaps. And all I did was reflect back on that breakdown from a highlight tape that two coaches that know what they're looking at, they brought it up. Leonard Taylor still has the same issues going into a junior year as he had coming out of high school, which is he comes in too high and gets nullified, and he's not as aggressive as he needs to be with his hands. But everyone is talking about, well, why he's 5-star this, 5-star that. That is exactly why telling someone to look at some film is irrelevant, because all they're going to talk about is he's a 5-star. Even though you say the recruiting services don't know what they're talking about. But you will miss that because you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know. So why are you telling somebody to look at film? I see people say that all the time. Well, man, I looked at the film and this, and this. You don't know what you're looking at. You're not looking at film. You're looking at a highlight tape. I'm going to tell you something. I saw one highlight tape for a player, man. I can't remember what the player name was. It was like a 4-minute clip film tape. And about 9 or 10 of the plays was against the same team. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but what does that let me know? Either that team isn't that good, or that was just your best game. Because it's a highlight tape. That's what it's supposed to encompass. So, when another example. Let's say you're looking at a linebacker, and all you see is, oh man, going sideline to sideline, making the play. You do not know enough to say, wait a minute, that wasn't his play to make. He wasn't supposed to make that play. Because if they come back and run that same play again and they cut back and he over pursued, they're going 90. I'm going to give you a real life example of that. I'm from Mississippi, right? And so I know people, they don't talk about Mississippi football like they should, but that's a whole different discussion. But it was one of the best teams in the entire state over the last 25 years. They were playing against an upcoming team that was really good, right? And so the team that was like really good for like the past 20 some odd years, they had a linebacker, really good, like all-state type of guy. And the other team they were playing had a really good running back. And so the linebacker, he made all kind of tackles, man. People were talking about like, oh man, he's a tackling machine. But the other team that they played, their coaches realized something. He was too aggressive. At the snap of the ball, he flowed too quickly. And so the running back that they had, he was a 2,000-yard rusher. I mean, he was no slouch. They ran counter the entire night. I think he had like $180 at half. Simply because that guy over pursued, but nobody said anything about it during the season, for the simple fact that they were playing guys that were not as good at the running back position. So by the time they cut back, he had time to recover and make a play. But you can't do that against a guy that's just as good as you and faster than you. Because I've seen some people say, oh, well, man, if the linebacker's not in position, as long as he's fast, he can make up. No, you can't. You're not going to be able to do that at this level against elite talent. And again, I'm not pretending like I'm the football czar by any stretch of the imagination and that my knowledge of the game is better than some people. But I know this, I gain nothing from watching a player's highlight tape. Shout out to Flo. Flo said something that made the most sense in the world to me. Flo said, look, man, I don't really want to give an evaluation on the player unless I see them with my own two eyes. I need to see it before I make that judgment on what the player is. And that's true. Because a highlight tape is simply just that. It's good plays. And the thing about it is you don't even know, like a wide receiver, and this is my last example. Like, let's say you got a wide receiver, for instance. He's routing people up. He's doing this. Who is he doing it against? Is that player a Division I caliber corner? Do they have Division I caliber players on the defensive side of the ball? You don't know. So it just was so funny when the guy said, watch the film, you'll see that these guys are ballers. And then there's a discussion now about, well, remember last year we had the 3 stars and then the recruiting services reevaluated them and then became 4 stars. But y'all just said they don't know what they're talking about. So if they didn't know what they were talking about as a 3-star, now they know what they're talking about by reevaluating them and now they're 4-star or 5-star. And again, that is why I do not follow recruiting, because I couldn't picture myself saying that a publication is ranking players and I tell them that they don't know what they're talking about because they watched the same highlight tape that I watched and they got a different judgment from it. But then after the season is over, they re-rank them and now it's like, see, I told you they was that the whole time. But anyway, man, like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch the film. Watch the film. Man, it's all about the you, man. I'm out.